Today, the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform meets to advance two resolutions recommending that the House of Representatives find former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in contempt of Congress for refusing to comply with duly issued subpoenas. The committee does not take this action lightly, but subpoenas are not mere suggestions. They carry the force of law and require compliance. Former President Clinton and Secretary Clinton were legally required to appear for depositions before this committee. They refused. He also stated, and I quote, "No one is above the law." Actions have consequences. 6 months ago, Republicans and Democrats on the House Oversight Committee's Federal Law Enforcement Subcommittee unanimously approved deposition subpoenas for the Clintons by voice vote as part of our investigation into the federal government's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell criminal cases. The Clintons' testimony is critical to understanding Epstein's sex trafficking network and the ways he sought to curry favor and influence to shield himself from scrutiny. Their testimony may also inform how Congress can strengthen laws to better combat human trafficking. Since issuing the subpoenas, this committee has acted in good faith. We've offered flexibility on scheduling. The response we received was not cooperation, but defiance, marked by repeated delays, excuses, and obstruction. The Clintons are in a fundamentally different category. They had documented relationships with Epstein and Maxwell, evidenced by numerous photographs, flight log records, wedding invitations, and other materials. Some of these photos can be seen here. We repeatedly informed the Clintons' attorney that written statements would not be accepted. The subpoenas required depositions. Today, the Clintons must be held accountable for their actions. And Democrats must support these measures or they will be exposed as hypocrites.
Donald Trump is leading a White House cover-up right now of the Epstein files. And we all know that Epstein himself said that Donald Trump was his best friend for over 10 years. And it is shameful, illegal, and unconstitutional that the Department of Justice has released 1% of the files. 1% of the files. Where is the pressure to get Pam Bondi to release the files? Instead, you're focused, and the committee's focused, on whoever you perceive to be your enemies, and the enemies of Donald Trump. Because let's be clear, we want to talk to President Bill Clinton. We want him to answer our questions. We also want Ghislaine Maxwell to answer our questions. We also want to understand why Pam Bondi refuses to release all the files. 1% of the files have released. We have had a legal subpoena in place since the summer, since July. It's been the job of the DOJ to comply with this law since a subpoena passed the subcommittee of this body. Since that subpoena passed in July, we've received 33,000 documents, of which 99% of them were already public documents. And so when we talk about complying with the law, you have to talk about complying with the very subpoena that this committee actually passed in a bipartisan way. And so Mr. Blanche is talking about the Epstein files law, which we should have received all the documents already per the actual law that was voted on. There has been little to zero production of this committee's requests.
Now, the closest comparison to this particular criminal contempt case is Steve Bannon. And there's well-established precedent here. Steve Bannon refused to answer, saying he would only answer questions from this committee if Trump told him to do so. That wasn't like delaying or obfuscating. That is willful defiance. And that's what the courts found, and that's why he went to jail. And again, while I think that the Clintons should be here, what we're proposing here is a very serious matter, bringing criminal charges against a former president of the United States.
We have documented communications, including a signed birthday note from Donald Trump containing explicit sexual references and referencing wonderful secrets between them. Emails from Epstein saying that Trump, quote, knew about the girls. Donald Trump acknowledging he knew Epstein was a, quote, creep, and that Epstein recruited girls and women from Mar-a-Lago. Trump saying he wants to cover up the files because, quote, my friends will get hurt. If we're committed to transparency and justice, why is that off limits for this committee? Why is his name absent? Why no discussion of Attorney General Bondi's refusal to comply for months with this committee's subpoena? Why no contempt for Attorney General Bondi?
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download Metro TV Extend sekarang.